coming back into the game after last week?
Yeah, I think from last week we definitely took a lot of learnings out of it. A lot of areas where we've seen ourselves grow over the past few weeks. If you compare our game to earlier ones, there's definitely areas that we've grown. And then areas that needs more growth as well. And so I guess just like every week, we'll take those learnings into this week and improve on what we need to and keep improving on what we've been doing better.
I think the narrative, obviously, for Sydney Swans this year is about growth. But do you think players have sort of become frustrated or they sort of lost belief with such a difficult season?
No, not really. I think the internally we're actually, and it sounds weird, but we after the game had a chat, and usually when you've lost by that much, it's a bit like that, but it's just not at all. And we're focused on a couple of key KPIs internally that we've seen some growth. A classic one is our possession rate against a really good side in North Melbourne. We were able to maintain that from what we did the week before against Hawthorn. I think that's a positive. And there's other little ones that we're concentrating on, and we're trying to build into becoming a competitive team. So that's what the focus has been about, and that won't change in the next 4 weeks either. But the group itself is rock solid, and I think we've had really good reflections on games and moments in games where we've gained momentum, but also we're realistic about where we sit in the competition as well. And that game on the weekend could have easily been a 100+ loss, and it wasn't because of some of the things that we did. So I think that's a positive, and the players seem up and about and ready to go again this week.
Yeah, awesome. And I guess talking about being realistic and also just focusing on the growth, I know going into games, it's always looking at keeping the ball going at the game. Some people say that it's unfair to expect Sydney to win, to have at least one win this season. Is this disheartening to hear? Is it disappointing to hear that some fans don't expect a win this season?
Yeah, I mean, we're here. We're in the competition to get wins on the board. So I guess on one side it can be disheartening to hear that that's how people are thinking, but we're just, like as Scott said, focusing on our internal KPIs and where we want to grow. And as I said, we've seen so much growth compared to round one, round two, and that's what we're focusing on. We never really, we're here to win, but the scoreboard isn't really our main focus when we do our game reviews. Like as Scott always says, if we win or lose, our review would be exactly the same. And so, yes, we just keep focusing on internally what we want to work on, and that's where our success is at the moment.
Awesome. And just one more question. Recently in the media, there's been a heap of naysayers saying that AFLW isn't an elite sport, AFLW is... and I guess it can be disheartening when people look at the game and they look at low-scoring games and say Sydney can't get on the board. How is Sydney sort of... I mean, it is always annoying when naysayers come up with arguments, but how is Sydney sort of combating that argument that AFLW is an elite sport?
From my opinion, then you can have your say, but from my opinion, I disagree clearly. I think it's the growth that I've seen. I was involved in the inaugural year at Carlton, and there's lots to go, but there's lots of reasons why it hasn't become fully professional yet. That's the aim, to get it there. But to say it's not elite, I disagree with. I think it is elite, and any young girl playing football now as a 10 or 11-year-old have got something to aspire to, and just to see the joy on the faces of the supporters when the girls run out and they want a photograph and a signature, and I think you've got to be an elite sport, you need to have followers, and the girls definitely have a following that inspires girls to play the sport, which in itself makes it elite. And then there's at the top end with the standard of the game. If you look through the statistic, it's growing, and I don't even want to go back to when the men's game started, but I'm sure there's similarities there with scoring and and all those things. So it's, for me, I just think it's been a sport that's grown and grown, and give it another 3 or 4 years, it'll be better than what it is today as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess as we go more towards being full-time and getting to put more time into our craft, into our recovery, and into our spending time at the club, like, the competition's only going to get better. And with the young girls seeing us there on the screen and being able to see us on social media, like, when I was little, that's all I would have wanted to see. And so I think those girls getting to grow up seeing girls playing footy on the TV is only going to build the strength of the competition for years to come as well, because all of a sudden in 10 years the girls that are playing would have played all their life, whereas now it's pretty rare to have someone in the comp who has played all their life. So that's going to be a huge thing for the comp in the coming years as well.
Thanks, guys.
G'day team, it's Ryan Middle here from ABC Grandstand. Scott and Lauren, just following up from those comments there from Joanna, is it sort of just par for the course for an expanding competition to sort of have scorelines like this, and the fans and I guess the general public just need to be patient with it?
Yeah, definitely. It's I think not just that, but also the time frame that we were given to build the whole program was so short, and he had to put on 35 plus staff and what's turned out to be 32 players, and we're still really only around 6, 7, so we're really only 16, 17 weeks. Is ridiculous, to be honest, and that's probably the piece for me, is that if we were given longer, we would have probably done a similar job as far as the planning goes. It's just we would have more time to do it. So it's the strategy was really squashed into a short space of time, and when that happens, you've got to make decisions a bit quicker than what you had. If you had more time, you'd be able to make different decisions possibly. But I think for me, I honestly feel that expansion itself, whether you've got, in my case at North Melbourne, we had 18 months, and even then, towards the end, you felt rushed because you're diving into the unknown. So it's you can have the best strategy in the world, but when you're under pressure to get the best people in every single role, then you're the best player in every single position. Some of it's subjective, and it really takes multiple years, and it's why in world sport, in any sport, I think there's only one team, an expansion team. It was a hockey team in Canada that actually won their elite sport premier championship once. There's only one team's done it. So statistics tell you that it's hard, and I think the expectations from people, from internally anyway, and the supporter base and sponsors has been amazing at Sydney, and they're all supportive and they're all on the journey, but it is a journey. It's not something you can get. There's no textbook. You can't get a manual or look up YouTube and see how to do it. It just doesn't happen like that. So there's always going to be bumps, and I think to judge it, you need to look in 3 to 5 years' time and look back and say, did it work? And that for me is where I come from.
Yeah. Any thoughts as well, Mark, perhaps?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think probably as players we're feeling the effect of how it was so rushed now, because I think on the weekend it was probably, and speaking to Scott, he said the same thing, it was probably the first week that we really felt connected on field. I think we've done a really good job at creating a connection off field between us in such a short amount of time. That was evident pretty quickly and early on in pre-season, but on field, obviously it takes playing games with each other to learn that. And if, we had more weeks together in pre-season, we would have been able to build that connection quicker. But I think on the weekend, it was, the first time that we did. Obviously, we couldn't impact on the scoreboard, but apart from that, we felt really connected. And then you look forward and you've only got 4 games to go. And so, I think next season will be a real kind of curve up for us, because we get to start with that connection, which is going to be really big for us.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Hi, Scott and Lauren. Just looking ahead to this week, you've got a match against the Suns. It's technically your fourth home game and your fourth different home venue. What's the aim for the group, or what's the message to the group going in?
Yeah, from my perspective, the message is simply just to do what we're doing and follow the process and just see improvement. It's we don't want to waver from that no matter who we play. And although it's a cliche but the process is the process. And if we can increase our time with the ball in our hands, which is a focus, that will then hopefully give us more territory. And if we get more territory, it gives us more inside 50s, more chance to score. So it's following those step-by-step things. And as I said earlier, we've at our level of being able to hold on to the ball in, and not just looking at that we're averaging 189 possessions and saying that that's the number. It's more than that. It's where those possessions are held and what we then do with the ball. So there's a lot of internal stuff behind that. And if we can get that to a point, and we're not far off it, that will then give us opportunities to score. And then on the back of that, it gives the opposition less time. So there's a lot of step-by-step mundane things, but that's absolutely the focus. So to go into this week and say, look, it's an opportunity to win, absolutely, but it's more about what we do as a group and how we grow as a group. Yeah,
for sure. And I think it's probably easy to think that as a group, maybe our belief is hard to keep, but I think that as a group, it does just keep growing each week because we're so focused on the process and we see our internal KPIs. We see us getting closer to hitting those and hitting those sometimes now, which grows our belief, irrelevant of what the scoreboard says. So yeah, we'll absolutely go in to this week just focusing on the same process that we have each week and getting better.
And for you, Lauren, being part of the leadership group, I think you're one of, if not the youngest member of the leadership group. What's something that you've learned and kind of developed as a leader in your role so far?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I feel like I've learnt just as much off the field as what I have on the field this season. I've been super lucky to be in the role that I have been. And I think probably the biggest thing that I've learnt being in an expansion team is the importance of having real, genuine connections with everyone at the club, with your teammates, with your coaches, with all the other staff. I think that's just we've definitely realised that this year that is just the absolute, cornerstone of a successful team. And, yeah, I've definitely felt how important that is, especially with your teammates. You can't perform and be connected on the field if you're not off the field, and that's really knowing each other well, knowing where they've come from, why they're here, what their goals are. It's so important. I think that's been the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, thank you. And final question, just I noticed yesterday that Whelan was injured in training with a collarbone injury. It seemed like you finally had a mostly healthy list, and then something like that happens for Scott. Is someone going to come into the lineup that hasn't been determined yet, or will that be announced tomorrow?
Yeah, we do match committee tonight and have a look. So yeah, someone will clearly come in. We've got a good problem to have in that we've got Beck Privatelli's back available. Ellie Morfitt played pretty well in scrimmage last week, so there's a couple of girls to look at there. And yeah, Wills is a big loss. She was one of our better performing mids, and I don't know. We just can't take a trick, but that's fine. It's there's plenty of soldiers left, and yeah, there's also a couple of players that we haven't played yet that we'd like to have a look at some stage. So we may go that way as well, but we'll do that tonight. We've got training at Henson Park tonight. Maybe have to bring bathers, but that's all right. We'll see how we go. So there's a good possibility that we might look at one of those players.